You are listening to Single Smart Female. This is Jen, explaining the possibilities in your love life and examining your mantourage dating experiences. I am here to help you do life and love on your terms by tipping the scales of love permanently in your favor. So don't forget to text this episode to all of your single smart girlfriends, and let's get started. Hello, single smart female. It is Jen, your romantic fairy godmama, coming to you today with a romantic fairy godmama personal hot topic. How owning my own shit in dating and love changed everything. Dun. Now, the truth be told, women have, even the smartest of women, have a love-hate relationship with me and my podcast because I refuse to blame men for their crappy love life. I also refuse to feel sorry for them. And what I want you to know about this is that I realized early on, this was game-changing for me. In fact, this is what started my whole journey into mantourage dating, into exploring all this, and what has brought me to you right now. But what I did was I realized that when you blame someone else, you relinquish all of your power to create the life, the love life as well that you want. So let that sink in for a second. So basically, when you've decided that whatever is going on in your life is why everything is happening, the external stuff, when you've decided that all the external stuff is why you don't have what you want, you've basically accepted the conditions of others. And something clicked in me that I wasn't going to accept that. I knew there had to be more. I didn't know exactly why I knew that, but I knew there had to be more because at the time when I started all this, I was in a pretty craptastic relationship with my ex-husband, and it was emotionally extremely trying. So this shift happened. I started exploring things, and then I'm going to talk to you about everything else I was doing that translated into creating the love life that I want and even the career that I want, because I'm here with you now because of all of this. So just remember this as we're going through this. When you take responsibility for your love life, then you have accepted and you have all the power that you need to create what you want. Okay? That means you're no longer confined to anybody else's conditions. Okay? You might have to navigate conditions, but you're no longer confined by them. Really important to remember. So one of the things that I discovered, or what I discovered early on, and then I chose to accept in my dating love life, is that everything was happening for me. The past, the present, the future, everything that was going on was happening for me on some level. Now, okay, I know before anybody has any kind of overwhelming reaction to that personal statement, let's take some steps back from it. So I concede women have some very traumatic and shitty experiences in their love life. I am not telling you that you have to view these as positive things for your love life. That's not what I'm saying whatsoever, okay? I personally grew up in an extraordinarily dysfunctional home and had an extraordinarily dysfunctional relationship with my father. And I very much recognize that women have experienced some horrific events at the hands of a man, okay? What I want you to take from it is that no matter what has happened, what you need to take more than anything, that doesn't discount your power to create everything you want. And so from here on out, I want you to start viewing things as they're happening. This is that we're separating from horrific into now we're going into just the annoying stuff that happens in dating, and we're changing some mindset around it. We're completely stepping away from the horrific stuff, okay? We're just pressing pause on that for a second and realizing that's in the past and understanding that if we've had those things happen, it doesn't mean we can't create an incredible love life. You're not confined to not only the ideas of other people, but you're not confined either to the past events in your life, that they don't mean that you have to have a shitty love life for the rest of your life and that you're never allowed to trust and adore and be adored by men again. Okay? So total separation. Now we're just moving into the mediocre, craptastic events that happen. I chose during that time, as I was dating, Mantourage dating specifically, I chose to believe that everything that was happening, it was happening for me. I personally chose also that a lot of the events and even my craptastic marriage had been training me in a certain way. The events from my past had been training me and prepping me to do things completely differently in the realm of dating and love and open me up to something. Specifically, when I shifted to everything is happening for me, it made it really, really easy to accept my part in how things unfolded. So for instance, I could very easily put all of the blame on my ex-husband for what a shitty partner he is. But when I really broke it down, guess what I discovered? I really set him up. Not that he wasn't a shitty person in general, but I set him up in ways that gave him permission to be shittier. And that included having poor boundaries. That included a lot of fault finding that I did with him. I never saw anything he did, even the good things. I never saw them as good. And I hyper-focused repeatedly on what a horrible person I thought he was, and then expected him to somehow crawl out of that hole and be my knight in shining armor. So I want this next statement I'm going to make, I want you to really sit with, if you have a repeated history, this is also really good to look at. I have a repeated history, I'm not even finding, but the men that keep showing up in your life keep having crappy behaviors and crappy stuff going and doing crappy things in the context of romance with you. There's a good chance that there's a piece of you that believes that men are the enemy. And that's something that you have to consciously start to step away from. Men are not the enemy. And also, this is also a good piece, they don't have to think exactly like you do in order to adore you. Okay? So I decided that. I decided early on that men wanted to adore me. Even if I didn't have, or I felt at the time, I didn't feel like I had a ton of evidence of that in my life, in my history. But as I started the process and journey into Mantourage dating, because I made that decision that they wanted to adore me and I accepted that, I started giving them the opportunity to adore me, and also looking at things that went sideways sometimes. I looked at them as opportunities for me, whether that was to strengthen my mindset, strengthen my skill set, strengthen my boundaries, all kinds of positive things that contributed to having the relationship that I want right now. And when I accepted that it was happening for me, I realized if I didn't hear back from my husband for a while, that meant I had other men I could focus on. There was other men I should focus on. There was other things in my life that I should focus on. There were other adventures to be had. I looked at it as one of two things. He wasn't ready for a relationship with me, and I wasn't ready for the relationship with him. So he had stepping up he needed to do. I had other things that needed my attention in my life as well. And women ask me quite frequently, how is it that you could pay attention to a guy that you didn't hear from for 5 weeks at a time? Well, first off, I had no clue that we'd end up together long term and, a decades-long relationship. I had no clue. No freaking clue. I had decided early on that the universe, God, was going to, as an adored woman, was going to bring me the relationship that I wanted. And meanwhile, I was going to enjoy the journey, learn how to interact with men differently, get over my own shit by owning it, and proceed forward and enjoy the hell out of this experience and really suck everything that I could out of it. And teach myself that men really liked me. Because that's one thing. One of the biggest things is that, there's two schools of thought with women. Women think that they have a lot of attraction. A lot of men are attracted to them, but they're not comfortable with it, and they don't know how to manage that kind of attention. So They are really scared that they're never going to find somebody that likes them as much as they like them. And so that's one version of the insecurity. And then the other version of the insecurity is that nobody is ever going to like them. There's no way that they could form a mantourage by any means. And that's another insecurity. It's all a form of this isn't going to work for me. Now, I want you to understand, we're talking now, if you really want to own your own shit, you have to accept that men are not the enemy, regardless of your history, and that there are a lot of amazing men in the world. And what you're going to do is prove that there are. That's what your mantourage journey is about. And learning how to interact with men differently, learning different ideas of men that we've been too tunnel vision and closed-minded to see, and understand that men are wired in a certain way. But we misinterpret this wiring frequently because of our own wiring. So what's our wiring? Okay, first off, what's their wiring? The majority of men, we are their weakness. We are one of the things that they start thinking about from a very young age, around middle school, as they're going through puberty and having all these different experiences and feelings. And they obsess about us, and they keep obsessing about us until it becomes to a tolerable place. And then when they find a woman that they really, really like, they start, thinking about her as well, and they want to find ways to make her happy. But here's the deal. Men can't make us happy. They can contribute to our happiness, but especially smart, ambitious women, smart, successful women, they can't make you happy. They can only contribute to it. And that's something you have to accept. You have to go on a journey of making yourself happy and knowing who you are and your likes and your likes, your dislikes, understanding how you're going to evolve in romance, in your life, and all those different things, and giving yourself permission to live out loud, but stop using what's going on with them to say that your love life sucks, okay? Your love life doesn't have to suck. Again, owning your own shit, your own responsibility, how you've been engaging with men, how you've not given them real permission to adore you and setting them up to win with you, that's what is interfering repeatedly with your love life. Now, again, I was talking about our wiring. So one of the things that we're really wired to do, and very well, is fault find, especially smart, successful women. We've gone out into the world. We have kicked ass, taken names. We've made shit happen. And we're really good at finding where things have the potential to break. So we're good at scanning, meaning we're good at assessing what could go wrong, okay? I know you know that feeling. So that means a lot of times we hyper-focus on everything that he does wrong. His communication, he'd been saying for a week now, "Good morning, beautiful," and today he just said hi. Oh shit, everything's about to fall apart. And that's what we do. We energetically overreact to that. All of a sudden, it's like, oh my God, everything is about to fall apart. I know that what this means. And a lot of times we actually make shit happen with this excessive fear, this fault finding and fear. Because then all of a sudden our energy is like, guys feel that shit. So one of the things I focus on a lot is stopping that hyper focus, especially when you have a vibrant mantourage. You don't have to hyper focus. If a man, his communication pattern changes with you for a moment, it's not the end of the fucking world. It is okay. Things are happening in the background. Everything is happening for you. Something big is probably happening. And it just means that you need to deviate your attention elsewhere right now. Not the end of the world. Okay. The other part of our wiring, which is very interesting, that let's say you have something dramatic happen with a man, and all of a sudden, let's say you've spent a lot of time with him and you've fault-finded with him a lot, and then all of a sudden he's done. He's done. Men, by the way, are not wired to be the recipient of your disappointment all the time. They thrive in your appreciation and approval. Now, when I say I don't think you should just give false appreciation and approval by any means, but you need to be considerate, and that's why learning how to interact with men differently and then rewiring yourself for understanding that not everything they're doing is against you is going to be helpful, but you need to be considerate of the fact that there's only so much disappointment that they can handle, because they're wired to want to make you happy. At some point, they're going to turn their attention to a woman who they feel like they have a chance at making happy. Okay? So take that in. Now, that doesn't mean that you can never express, are never allowed to express that you want things done differently, that you'd like something else for them. It doesn't mean you can't ever express disappointment. That's not what I'm saying whatsoever. But you have to be very considerate of the disappointment that you express. It doesn't mean that he gets to walk all the fuck over you either. Okay? Adored women have boundaries and they appreciate men. That's really, really important to understand. Okay? But again, we're fault finders. And you can rewire yourself not only to find the good in men, which, by the way, you're going to hear me say again and again and again and again, the more good you find in men, the more good men you will find. That will happen. Why? Because what we focus on, we will find. If you excessively focus on the shit, you're going to get more shit. That's what's going to happen. That pattern is not going to break. If you excessively focus on the good, you are going to get more good. Now, does that negate all of the crap? No, it doesn't negate all the crap. But the crap isn't going to be as influential and devastating in your life. Okay. So what happens, though, if you spend an excessive amount of time? How women are wired. They either expend this excessive amount of time, fault finding, things like that, and then something breaks, or they won't really open up their options in men and look around them and see what is actually available to them. And then something breaks with the guy, and then all of a sudden he didn't want to have anything to do with her because he goes somewhere else because he wants to be appreciated. The other woman, she won't open up her options in men, so she hyper-focuses on him, meaning we go into this mode instead of fault finding, we're perfection finding. And there's a difference. When I say focusing on the good, I'm not talking about perfection finding, okay? Let me give you an example. This happens quite a bit. I had a boyfriend in college. He was a bit of a long-term boyfriend at that, and we had a very tumultuous back and forth relationship. Well, finally, and I was a big, big fault finder, and he was very in love with me. And finally, he had it. He had it. I started dating somebody else. He had it. And then he ended up messing around with my best friend. We were broken up at the time. So anywho, the next thing I knew, because this happened, all of a sudden, all I could do was find the perfection in him. I was devastated. He could do no wrong. My life couldn't go on without him. Things like that. That's an excessive form of this perfection finding as well. It's almost where you can't breathe. So women do one of those two things in their wiring, and we have to break both of them. It's not about perfection finding. It's about good finding. It is about using that to find more good in your life and to enjoy your mantourage dating experience. With the base foundation of the fact that, remember, I decided this was happening for me, that I was going to end up with exactly what I wanted, no matter what it looked like and no matter what the adventure was that I was about to go on. Okay, so the other thing I decided to do during this as well is I decided to do dating completely differently. That's exactly when mantourage dating came into play. And I decided that I had always just dated one guy at a time and wait to see what happens. And then if it didn't work out, I'd start over again. And maybe I got a relationship with this. And then I'd start my fault finding. And then we'd end up broken up. And then I finally ended up married. But I married a guy just for him to stay in the United States. And that didn't work out. And it was just one endless crappy ass pattern of dating. Mantourage dating, on the other hand, gave me the ability to explore men. I said to myself that I was worthy of checking out what my options in love really were, okay, without committing to an exclusive relationship. But then women say things like, oh my God, what will he say? What will he think about you? What will your girlfriends think about you? Isn't that slutty? Isn't that? And I gave up all those things because I decided I was a woman, a real feminist that could have it any way I wanted to, so long as I owned my shit while doing it. Game changing. I learned things about men during my mantourage dating experience I didn't even know existed. I honestly thought I was the girl that men kind of liked, but then after a while just didn't like that much anymore. I wasn't spoiled. I wasn't put on an adored platform. I was just that girl. Okay? And that all changed. That all completely changed. Not only did I realize I was the woman that men wanted to adore, I realized that was a love that I could have over a lifetime. It wasn't just momentary. I wasn't going to screw it up all the time. And I decided while I was dating that anything I had done repeatedly previous to my Mantourage dating experiences that had not worked out for me, I was going to find a way to do it differently and see how it came out. And it worked extraordinarily well. Okay? A lot of my perception of men and them being this enigma went away. A whole bunch of ideas, a lot of shit ideas that I've heard by dating experts and in publications and things like that, I realized were false. And I learned to construct this experience and help other women do the same by trashing most of what I knew. I decided on a premise that I was meant to be loved and adored, that I was going to have the relationship I want, and then I decided to do everything differently, and it worked. And it started with owning my shit. I decided that what was going on in my life was happening for me, and that I can use pieces of it, which is how I help women break it down in the Secret Society of Adored Women. I could use pieces of it and frame it in a different way so that I would end up with everything that I wanted. This is something that you can do too. But you have to be willing to own your piece of it. You have to be willing to not beat yourself up for it, because that's not what I'm going to say. Because what you will learn is that there are things that you could have done differently and you didn't. But if you punish yourself over it, you're not going to get what you want. You have to be willing to say, okay, I'm going to tweak this and try this differently. I'm going to tweak this and try this differently. I'm going to experiment with this. I'm going to let myself understand this, let this teach me on some level, and I'm going to move forward. I'm not here to punish myself. I'm here to create everything I want. And I can have everything I want. And yes, sometimes I'm going to fall on my knees and some things are going to look chaotic or like it's not working out the way I want to. But if I double down and stay the adored woman course, I am going to have what I want. You, single smart female, can have this too. You have to be willing to own your parts, okay? You have to be willing to be responsible for your love life and not be confined to the conditions of other people. Now, if you're ready to learn how I Mantourage date and how I help my clients Mantourage date the right way, then go to mantouragedating.com for a free 3-day class. That way, I can go into more of the how-tos with you, and instead of just all of the big picture stuff. Okay, lover girl, it's time for the final thought on today's show. Mantourage dating is about you owning your power and never being chained again to someone else's conditions for your love life. Hey, lover girl, don't forget to subscribe to the show in your favorite podcast app, as well as share this episode with all of your single smart girlfriends. And if you are ready to walk permanently in the adored woman world and create the love life that you really want instead of the shit that they say that you have to settle for, then listen up. Women who get what they want search out the resources they need in order to make it happen. This is why you found me, and now it's time to make some badass, magical decisions in your dating and love life. No more half-assed decisions based on false information. No more half-assed dating and constant worry about whether or not you'll hear from him again. No more sustaining yourself on scraps of romantic attention or no attention at all. It's time to call BS on all the haters out there that say smart, successful women are destined to be single. It's time to invest in yourself with the only complete dating experience that has direct access to me and is put together exclusively for women like you. Meet me at secretsocietyofAdoredWomen.com for all of the details, including pricing, structure for our time together, and to schedule your application interview. See you there.